A teacher is suing an assistant principal for $40 million. The lawsuit stems from January 6, 2023, when Abby Zwerner was shot by a 6-year-old student while at Richneck Elementary School.
Yes, you heard that correctly. A 6-year-old. We covered that video a few weeks ago on my channel. I'll include that down below. But his mother was ultimately held responsible for his actions, as she should be, because we found out that he had been exposed to so many things a child of that age should never even know of. But Abby Zwerner, the teacher, is still fighting for justice because protocols were overlooked. Decisions were made that day that caused that event to happen that could have been avoided if only the administration had taken action. So she is currently in court fighting for justice. She is suing the vice principal for not taking action and for ultimately allowing that to happen. And we're going to see the opening statement from Abby Zwerner's lawyer. Take a look.
Now, members of the jury, an assistant principal is the second in command. She's a frontline administrator. And as a frontline administrator, the assistant principal directly interfaces with the teachers every day. As an assistant principal, you have the authority to search a student, to remove a student from the classroom, to notify the principal, to contact law enforcement. One of the main issues of a frontline administrator is safety. Now let's talk about January 6, 2023. The first week back to school after the holiday. Kids are excited, excitement in the air. It's a Friday. There's about 100 kids that are filing in to Richneck Elementary School at about 9 o'clock that morning. 20 of whom are headed down to room 11. Room 11 is the classroom that Miss Zwerner was the first grade teacher of. Now it's January. It's cold out. These kids have on hoodies, jackets, and backpacks. And in those backpacks are things that you would expect to find. Books, pencils, calculators. About an hour and a half later, at 10:30 a.m., another student, a 6-year-old, who we're going to refer to as JT, comes to school. His mom drops him off. You may be wondering why JT got to school at 10:30 that day. You'll probably hear that he was on a modified schedule because JT had some behavior problems. He was also coming back to school that day from a suspension where 2 days prior, JT had a violent episode where he took Miss Zwerner's phone and slammed it, cracking the screen protector. So this is his first day back from the suspension as well. JT, too, has on his backpack. He checks into the office. In JT's backpack are the usual things, books, a calculator, pencils, but you're going to hear that JT also had a loaded gun. So JT goes down to room 11, which is right down the hall from the main office, where the assistant principal's office is, where Dr. Parker spent the majority of her day sitting at her desk. You're also going to hear it was makeup testing day. Opposing counsel may say that's an important day in the life of an administrator. And it is. They're doing makeup testing. It's about 30 students that day from grades 3 through 5 who are making up the testing. It's a very small percent. Now it's about 11:30, 11:40, about an hour's gone by. Miss Zwerner goes into Dr. Parker's office. She's sitting at her desk. And Miss Zwerner says to Dr. Parker, JT seems off today and in a violent mood. He just threatened to beat up a kindergartner in the cafeteria. Does Dr. Parker get up from her desk and go down and check on JT? No. Does Dr. Parker look up and address Miss Zwerner and her concerns? No. Dr. Parker does not even look up. So now some more time's gone by. It's a little after 12. You're going to hear that another teacher comes into Dr. Parker's office, Amy Kovac. Ms. Kovac comes into the office with an alarming report and says after she's been in JT's class, spoken to some of the students in JT's class, Ms. Kovac thinks that JT may have a gun in his backpack. So, does Dr. Parker remove the child from the class? No. Does she notify the next in the chain of command, the principal? No. Does she contact law enforcement? No. Does she search the backpack herself? No. So Ms. Kovac says she's going to go search the backpack when they go to recess. Now about maybe 20 more minutes or so go by. Ms. Kovac comes back to Dr. Parker's office where Dr. Parker is still sitting at her desk. And now Ms. Kovac says to Dr. Parker, I checked the backpack. There was no gun. Right? However, in her next breath, Ms. Kovac says, Ms. Zwerner thinks that the child, JT, took something out of his backpack, the gun, and put it in his pocket. Does Dr. Parker then decide to remove the child from recess while he's out there with all the other students? No. Does Dr. Parker search the child? No. She doesn't notify the principal. Instead, Dr. Parker downplays the report. And she says to Ms. Kovac, he has little pockets. So Ms. Kovac leaves. Well, Ms. Kovac's one of the proctors that day for the makeup testing. So she goes out to recess and comes back to see Dr. Parker one more time. This is Ms. Kovac's third time in the office. And says, I wanted to let you know he has on a jacket. And I'm going for the testing because it starts at 1. And she'll be back for the testing. Now some more time goes by. It's about 1:40. 2 additional staff members go to Dr. Parker. One goes into Dr. Parker's office and says, he just got off the phone with another first grade teacher. He wants to know, did you search JT? Dr. Parker says, yes, the backpack's been searched. He walks out. Shortly behind him comes in the guidance counselor. And he says to Dr. Parker, after speaking to others and being concerned that a student actually saw bullets or a gun in JT's pocket, says, can I search JT? So not only does Dr. Parker not leave her office and go down the hallway and take JT out of that classroom, not only does she not search him, she doesn't call the police, but she makes the decision to say to the guidance counselor, no, you cannot search the boy. She says, just wait. His mother will be here soon. Let her know. The mother gets there about 2:30. This is about 1:40 p.m. We've had a day now of warnings. 4 warnings. So now the time is 1:58. Bang! Everybody nearby hears the sound of a gunshot. JT has now taken that firearm, pointed it at Abby, and pulled the trigger. You're going to hear that bullet went into her hand, her left hand, through her hand, into the side of her left chest, where it still lies today, because it's too dangerous to remove. You're going to hear how January 6, 2023 changed Abby's life forever.
So there you have it. And that story just is shocking to me. It is shocking that 4 different times teachers came in saying, this is what we think is going on. And Dr. Ebony Parker just dismissed it. And I think what her defense is going to try to argue is that, well, yeah, while she didn't take action, no one else did either. No one else searched the boy either. And I thought the same thing too. And Virginia law does allow teachers to search students if there is a reasonable suspicion. And that's exactly what Ebony Parker's defense team is trying to prove in their questioning of Abby Zwerner.
Did you remove JT from your classroom as you had done 2 days prior when you took him by the hand and took him out?
No.
Did you remove his backpack from the classroom?
No.
Did you search his backpack?
No.
Did you go back to the security officer in the lunchroom?
No.
However, school districts, including Newport News, Virginia School District, have policies in place that say, while yes, a teacher is allowed to search a student, they must have approval from an administrator. So all the times that they are asking Miss Parker to search him, she has to be the one to do it, as well as a teacher who came in and asked if he could search the student himself, and she said no. And Abby Zwerner's rebuttal to this was that she was trusting another teacher, Miss Kovac, who was working very closely with the student. They call him JT here, who was working very closely with JT, because what you have to understand about this situation and about this student is that he had severe behavioral issues. He was aggressive, and he had just come back. This was, in fact, his first day back from a suspension for being aggressive toward his teacher. So he had a whole team of people that included Miss Parker and that included Miss Kovac, who he, in fact, trusted very much. They say that he trusted her, that he liked her, that he was very open with her, and she was working with him that day to try and see if she could find out if he did, in fact, have that item on him at school.
and you learned from Ms. Kovac that 2 of your students said JT had a gun in his backpack.
She did not tell me which students, but yes, Ms. Kovac did tell me that students told her that the student brought a gun with him to school. Ms. Kovac was in my room investigating the situation. She was observing the student, sitting next to the student, and at that time, I'm trusting Ms. Kovac.
And this is the main tactic that the defense is taking to prove that Ebony Parker is not responsible for what happened, along with a very odd line of questioning to attack Abby Zwerner's character. In my opinion, it's extremely odd questioning. Just take a listen.
And Ms. Zwerner, when you reported to Dr. Watson whether you were using substances prior to the event, you didn't report truthfully to that, did you?
No.
Ms. Zwerner, is this a text you sent to Rosalie List? And Rosalie List was a fellow teacher with you, correct?
Yes.
That was on September 11, 2021.
Yes.
And in the text you said, "Ugh, I'm not ready to teach. If I quit, I'd go to cosmetology school." Is that right?
Yes.
That was a couple years before the events that we're here for today.
Yes.
So that was a text that you sent to Miss List a few years before.
Yeah, I think I also joked about stripping as well.
Ms. Zwerner, I didn't include that text.
I'm not really sure what the point of that line of questioning is besides just attacking her character. I don't really think that's going to go very far, but who am I to say? Who am I to say? They questioned Miss Kovac as well, and here is part of her questioning.
You're the third in command of that school, correct?
Not really, only when they're absent. I am not an administrator. I am a teacher with a specialized degree and certification in reading.
You're also not a 6-year-old child.
No, not at this time.
Don't elementary school teachers, aren't they in and out of school bags all the time?
Correct.
Right? That's pretty routine.
Again, we did not, knowing JT, his behavior, his actions, and the other children being in the room, I was not going to cause hysteria. I did what I did. I sat there trying to help him based on that relationship, and then I went and reported. And I can't help what somebody else did not do.
This case, in my opinion, is pretty cut and dry. Abby Zwerner is hoping that Ebony Parker will be held responsible for not doing enough to protect her. And I agree. Could Abby Zwerner have done more? Could Miss Kovac have done more? Could another teacher have done more? Possibly. Possibly. But when you hear something like that, when you hear that that a student could have one of those items on their person, when you hear that one of those items could be in your school somewhere, that a visitor could have one of those items on them, everything stops. Or at least it should. And when Ebony Parker heard that day that a student could have had that item on him, she dismissed it like it wasn't even a possibility. That his pockets were too small. Did Miss Zwerner have the authority to lock down the school? No. Neither did Miss Kovac, neither does any other teacher. Ebony Parker does. And that's exactly what she should have done, and she did not. I think she should be held responsible for this. But let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you're still here, I thank you for watching. If you care about keeping kids safe online and in real life, then I urge you to subscribe and to hit that notification bell to support me in that mission. And if you're worried about the world we're leaving to our children, I'm right there with you.